In 2025, news and speculation began to swirl in Mexico's security circles about the possibility of a new kind of prison, one designed to be the hardest, most secure facility the country had ever seen, built specifically to house cartel leaders who had long been able to direct their operations from behind bars. The idea was not officially confirmed by the government, yet it resonated strongly with the public because of Mexico's long-standing problems with overcrowded, corrupt and poorly managed prisons. Mexico's penitentiary system currently holds roughly 240,212 inmates in 275 facilities, even though the official total capacity is closer to 224,825. That means an overall occupancy rate of about 107%, and in some facilities the conditions are even worse, with cells meant for 6 to 8 prisoners now holding 20 or more. Almost 38% of those detained are still awaiting trial or sentencing. As of May 2025, about 99,924 inmates in Mexico were pre-trial detainees, nearly 40% of the total prison population. These numbers, recorded by the World Prison Brief and other international sources, highlight the immense strain on the system. Overcrowding, corruption, and violence behind bars have allowed criminal groups to flourish even inside prison walls, often orchestrating escapes, managing drug networks, or intimidating witnesses while officially in custody. Given that reality, the concept of a new super maximum security prison, one that could physically and technologically sever cartel leaders from their organizations, did not seem unrealistic. Observers immediately compared the idea to the Terrorism Confinement Center, better known as CECOT, in El Salvador. That facility, which opened in 2023, is often described as one of the most extreme prisons in the world. Built for around 40,000 inmates, at a reported cost of about 115 million US dollars, it is organized into 8 pavilions, with heavily restricted movement and on-site courts and medical services, so prisoners never need to leave. Reports suggest some cells house 80 to 100 inmates in harsh conditions that have attracted criticism from human rights groups. Operational costs for CECOT reportedly exceed $200 million annually, representing more than 3% of El Salvador's national budget. Despite the criticism, the fortress-like design and its ability to house thousands of gang members in near-total isolation have become a model that other countries are watching closely. Analysts in Mexico suggest that if such a prison were to be built there, its capacity might range from 20,000 to 50,000 inmates, specifically targeting cartel leadership and their lieutenants. Construction and equipment expenses could easily reach between 100 and 200 million US dollars, especially if the facility were to include advanced security technology. Proposed features often include triple-layered perimeters with reinforced walls and fences, motion sensors, heat mapping cameras, signal jamming towers to block cellular, satellite and radio communication, and fully isolated pods of windowless cells that prevent inmates from seeing or contacting one another. Each cell would be monitored by artificial intelligence systems that track movement and behavior anomalies. To prevent corruption or collusion, prison guards would be rotated frequently, undergo biometric identity checks, and, in some proposals, even have their names kept anonymous. Visiting would be strictly no contact, carried out only through intercom and glass. In addition to physical security, such a facility would require its own self-contained infrastructure. Power lines, water supplies, and medical centers would all be built on-site and underground, with redundancy built in to prevent blackouts or failures that could compromise security. An annual operational budget in the tens of millions of dollars would be required to cover energy costs, maintenance, staff salaries, and constant technology upgrades. If the project were realized, it would most likely begin quietly. Analysts imagine that land in a remote region, perhaps a desert plateau or mountain valley, would be acquired discreetly to avoid publicity or cartel sabotage. Contracts might be awarded to international companies with experience in fortress construction and high-security surveillance systems. Initial phases could aim for a smaller population, perhaps 5,000 of the most dangerous inmates, with expansion taking place over several years. By 2027 or 2028, such a facility might reach its full operational scale. Mexican officials, if they proceed, would almost certainly frame it as a major step toward dismantling cartel influence, stressing that once leaders enter these walls, their ability to issue orders or manage criminal operations would be cut off. The potential impact of such a prison is easy to imagine. By isolating top leaders, the government could disrupt cartel command structures and slow coordinated attacks or smuggling operations. It could also serve as a symbolic blow, sending a message that no figure is too powerful to be neutralized. For ordinary citizens, particularly those in communities plagued by cartel violence, the prison could represent hope that the state was finally regaining control. However, experts warn that even the most secure facility is not a magic solution. Cartels have shown a remarkable ability to adapt, often decentralizing leadership, so that arresting or isolating a few top figures does not dismantle the network. Corruption remains a constant threat. In many past cases, cartel leaders have bribed guards, arranged escapes, or continued to manage operations despite being imprisoned. Building an advanced prison will mean little if oversight, staffing, integrity, and political will are lacking. Legal and constitutional challenges also loom large. Mexico's justice system requires adherence to human rights standards, and international watchdogs are likely to scrutinize any practices resembling indefinite solitary confinement or extreme deprivation. Balancing the need for security with the obligation to respect the rights of prisoners will be an ongoing tension. Some analysts emphasize that without parallel efforts such as targeting cartel finances, strengthening local police forces, reducing corruption in the judiciary, and providing social support to communities, locking up leaders alone will not eliminate cartel violence. Dr. Ana Lucia Ortega, a criminologist based in Mexico City, has argued that any prison project should be part of a wider strategy. The prison must be integrated into a broader national approach, she said in an interview earlier this year. Locking up leaders won't be enough if the network beneath them remains intact. Mexico's government has not yet released any confirmed plans or budgets, but public discussion of such a project continues, fueled by frustration with the existing system's failures and inspired by the example of both the successes and the controversies of El Salvador's CECOT. If Mexico proceeds, the construction could cost well over $100 million, with an annual operating expense in the tens of millions, and would likely rely heavily on advanced surveillance technology, jamming systems, biometric access control, and strict no-contact visitation policies. The idea of such a prison remains speculative for now, but the conditions that give rise to it are real. Overcrowded facilities at 107% capacity, nearly 40% of inmates awaiting trial, repeated prison breaks, and cartel leaders continuing to exert power from their cells. These problems, widely documented by sources like World Prison Brief and the Rio Times, create fertile ground for bold solutions. If a new fortress-like supermax is ever built in Mexico, it will stand as both a symbol of the state's determination and a reminder of how entrenched organized crime has become. Whether it would truly cut off the cartel's command structures or merely shift their operations elsewhere remains an open question. For now, the discussion of Mexico's hardest prison ever reflects a nation still searching for a decisive way to curb cartel violence and reclaim authority over its own penal system.